Welcome, 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 everybody. This is Etch Live for February 2026. We got Striped Goat in the house. Go ahead and say hi once the stream starts. Also, I want Matteo to say hi and Jeremy to say hi, and then we're going to ask you guys if anybody is duplicated in terms of audio or if there's any audio issues before we get started. Go ahead, Matteo.
Hey, guys. How's my audio?
All right, and Jeremy?
Hey, everyone.
All right, let us know in the chat. No, there's a little bit of a delay. Jeremy is our, he does a lot of things on the team. He is big on the UX side of things, big on general user strategy, but also on AI. And so February was the month where Etch became agentic. And so I know a lot of people have questions, and they have questions about the current state of AI in Etch. They have questions about the future of AI in Etch. So when we get to the Q&A portion, if you have AI related questions, Jeremy is the perfect person to answer those. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I'll just talk about a little bit about what these are for. We do these live streams every single month. The goal is for us to demo a bit of what's been added that month in terms of features. Obviously, a lot of people who use software like Etch, like automatic CSS, they're busy. You know, they're doing client work. They're doing a lot of stuff. And what that often means is they're not studying every changelog that comes out. They're not studying every video that gets released highlighting a new feature. And we don't want you to ever feel like you are falling behind or that you don't understand the software anymore. So we do a monthly live stream where we get on and show you, hey, like if you want to catch up, this is a good place to do it. You tune into the live stream, you see all the stuff that we've been working on, you see it demoed, you see it in action. And if you have questions, you get to ask questions about it. And then you're caught up, and then you can start using all the new stuff that is in Etch, which you should be using because it's insanely valuable. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to, I set up some new scenes for us today. So we're going to try this one. As I do stuff that's in more detail, I might go to one of the typical screens that you're used to seeing. Like, let's test this one real quick and see. Okay, that'll give us a little bit more screen real estate for things that maybe need a little bit of detail, but we'll try to do most of the stuff in here. Reminder that questions need to be #Q for us to find them. Matteo is going to kind of monitor the questions area of the chat. And if you have any really good questions, he'll mark them down and make sure that we get them answered. All right, so everybody's saying audio is good, and we are perfect to start. Okay. So this is I went through the changelog. This is obviously not everything. There's a lot of little stuff, improvements, bug fixes, yada, yada, yada. But I want to highlight the main things, the meat, okay? We're going to start with the merge attribute bar with Command K and the auto suggestion of selectors. So if you knew in the past, we had the Command K bar was introduced, and it's actually Command K, Command I, Command A. It does a bunch of things, right? It allows you to take actions. It allows you to navigate instantly. I'll go ahead and bring it up on the screen. So you see we have some actions that we can do. We have navigations that we can do. We have insertions that we can do. Pretty much now, no longer are you limited to, let me see if I can zoom in. How close will it let me get down here? You were kind of limited to this bar down here for adding elements for a very long time. Now there is literally no limitation. If you Command I, you can insert literally any valid HTML element is in here for just quick auto insertion, right? If I needed a list of some sort, I can get an unordered list, an ordered list. You see articles, details, block quotes, various versions of some of these things. Those are all now at your fingertips. But what we did in February specifically, and I think in the last release, is we merged the add attribute bar with this system. And so you'll see selector now here. And I have one class in the database for this install because it's a brand new install. But you see that under available classes, it is being listed here. And as I add more selectors, whether that be IDs or classes or whatever, you are going to get this auto suggest list. And so the adding of attributes is now merged with the Command K, Command M, Command I system, which is very, very nice. It's all unified now. And you also have the auto suggestion, which users were asking for constantly because, yeah, on a complex project, you've now built, 8 different patterns, 7 different components. And it's like, okay, what was the class that I used for this thing? Because I need to use it again. Now it's all right there for you. You never have to go back and check the style manager. So that is number 1. Number 2, this is a small thing. Of course, we have a full-blown recipes system, and we have a new recipe for footer reveal. And so what I'll do for this to just quickly demo is I'll jump over to templates. I'll go to the index where you would typically create your footer. I'll do Command I, type footer, hit enter. That's going to give me a footer. I'll put a container inside of the footer, and maybe we'll just put some text in here that says this is a reveal footer. Now you've probably seen this effect before. This is not a mission critical kind of feature, right? And it's actually not a feature. It's just part of the recipe database, part of the recipe system. That if you wanted the effect where you scroll down the page and the footer is kind of feels like it's hidden behind the body, and as you scroll down, it kind of reveals itself. This is a very nice, sleek little effect. Gives a little bit more life to certain sites. It's now easy to do. So we will just apply a class of footer, and then we want to use the question mark syntax to open the recipes, auto suggest. And if you just type the word reveal, you will see that there is the footer reveal recipe. And once I add that recipe, I have a reveal footer. It's literally as simple as that, okay? You do have controls for what your body color is. If you use automatic CSS, it's gonna automatically reference your body background color, so you don't really even have to do anything here. You can change the shadow that appears when you do this. But literally just like that, I have a reveal footer. I don't need to know how to do it. I don't need to look it up. I don't need to ask AI. This is a very common effect. If you wanna add it, you can go ahead and expand the recipe, and suddenly you have a reveal footer. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that, and we will head back to our page. Okay, so, let me pause real quick just to make sure everybody understands. We've been working very hard on documentation. You might say to yourself, well, how do I know what recipes are available other than like this little auto suggest list here, right? If you go in anywhere, like into the docs, you're gonna notice, and I don't think, okay, if you find an area that's not done yet, let me know. But I've cleaned up a bunch, and I don't think there's any more areas that are literally undone except for stuff that we literally don't have, right? So facets are planned, they're coming soon. There's some placeholder docs in here. But I'll give you an example like custom components. Some of these were not filled out yet. Look, all of this is done now. All of this is done. We're working very, very hard on the documentation side of things to make sure that whenever you have answers, you know, hey, I can probably find that answer in the docs. You don't have to run to the community and wait for responses. The docs are very solid. And I know with other software products, you might be used to a very poor documentation experience. We're working very hard to make sure that Etch's documentation experience is very, very good. So if you notice when I went into utilities, there is a recipes area, and it is going to have every recipe in here, okay? So you can go in and just, it's something to just, take 5 minutes, go through it just so you're aware of the recipe possibilities. Because there are very often cases you're gonna run into where you're like, I wish there was an easy way to do this. Well, there could very well be a recipe for it. And so if you've gone through here, taken 5 minutes, in your brain somewhere, you're gonna be like, I think there might be a recipe for that. Let me go search the docs. Let me find, okay, there is. Let me go ahead and expand the recipe. Okay, let's go ahead and go back. So builder color scheme toggle, this is very easy. I'm gonna direct your attention that, well, I'm trying to zoom in. There we go, okay. There is a little icon here for toggling dark mode and light mode on and off. This only affects the builder. So if you are doing a project where color scheme is enabled, you can very quickly flip back and forth and just see, okay, is the stuff that I'm building, does it look good in dark? Does it look good in light? Okay, I can move on with my life. And it will remember your suggestion or your preference, but you can change it anytime. Very, very simple. Okay, we have a new intersects modifier. I'm gonna grab this URL. I'll just take you to the docs. Again, I'm not gonna demo this. I'm not going to explain it in detail. I just want to make reference to it so that you know this exists. We have a lot of comparison modifiers. We have a lot of ways to modify dynamic data, check dynamic data, do conditional logic based on dynamic data. And a new one is intersects. And it says the intersects method checks if two arrays have any elements in common, okay? And so there's a bunch of examples here for what you can do with this. You need to know it exists because it's not something you're gonna use all the time. But it is something where when you need it, it's really important to know that it can actually be done. And again, that's where you run to the docs, you read about it real quick, you implement it, you move on with your life. But the solutions are there and you need to know that they are in fact there. Okay, let's go back. Native AI assistant. So this is, I'm just gonna give you a quick look at it real quick. And then I think we'll pause here to do a little bit of Q&A since we have Jeremy, and then we'll continue to move on with the rest of the stuff. So if you do have AI related questions, I would get them in right now. But if you want to enable the native AI assistant, you're going to go to the new settings panel. You're going to go to experimental and you're going to see AI assistant. I'll try to zoom in on this for you. You want to toggle this on. As soon as you toggle this on, you're going to see another field show up down here where it's going to say open API key. You're going to go to OpenAI. You're going to get your API key. You're going to set up your billing. You're going to come back and you're going to inject that right here. You're going to hit save. And the minute you do this, you are going to see a brand new panel called AI Chat. And this panel can be moved around like any other panel. If I want it to live up top, I can. If I want it to live down below, I can. It can be any size you want it to be. If you want it to live in the bottom, it can live in the bottom. Okay, this is just the same modular interface that you're nice and used to. Personally, I like it on the left-hand side over here because I have my structure on the right-hand side. I want the maximal amount of space for my structure panel. And then a lot of times I'm just hiding the AI chat like this until I need it. And when I need it, I bring it back and then I start chatting. We started with this. The very first released version of this was you literally had to one shot. Like you had to use a lot of detail in your question and you had to hope that you didn't need to make any changes to your prompt because it was not conversation aware. So you could not literally have a conversation with it. It now, after the latest update, is conversation and context aware. Well, I don't know if I'd say context aware, but it's conversation aware. So you can chat with it. You can chat with it. You can adjust your prompt. You can adjust the logic that it's using to answer your query. And so I will just say, let's see. Let's just say, how would I build a basic hero section with a heading, lead, and featured image? Can you provide me some sample code? Okay, and I'm just gonna hit send. You can also hit command and return, and we'll just let that, cook for a second, okay? Matteo, do we have any interesting questions while this runs?
We have a couple of questions on AI. I think the first one to start with is, will the AI be trained on all our doc updates?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
And yes, absolutely. It will need a little work on our part. Currently, it's grabbing the documentation from the website directly. Ultimately, we may want to tweak this system a little so that AI has more examples to work from. But yeah, the goal is absolutely to keep it in sync. Otherwise, it's not very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we discussed a little bit some approaches to making retrieving documentation a little bit easier for AI, both in terms of providing more AI valuable examples.
Are we back? Let's check. See if our chat can get rolling again. Test. Okay, are we back?
All right.
We got Matteo back. We got Jeremy back. Okay.
There's Jeremy.
I think I got hit with a EMP or something. My internet just like went flatline. It came back quickly though. I don't know what happened. All right. So as I was saying, I asked for a hero section. It was thinking in terms of a dynamic hero section. I was thinking in terms of a static hero section. Now that this is conversation aware, I can change the context, right? I can say, hey, I'm not building a dynamic hero section. It's completely static. I need a static example. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and we'll see what that comes back with. Let's see. Just to answer the question, they already said that OpenAI had the easiest implementation. Of course, they will add others. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there was the question of like, why only OpenAI? Will we get other models soon?
Yeah.
We've already answered this in the community, but just to reiterate, we needed to start somewhere, and starting with OpenAI proved to be the easiest first step. It's not going to be the only model. It's not going to be the only provider. Most likely, we don't know yet, but most likely it's not going to be the only model and the only provider. But we are iterating step by step, and that was the first place to start.
Yeah.
Jeremy, do you have a way to up the gain of your microphone a little bit? Some people are reporting that your mic is a little bit, the volume is a little bit lower.
Is it better now?
Okay.
We'll let the people decide. See if you guys can hear Jeremy a little bit better now. I upped the interview guest stream gain as well, so hopefully that helps. Okay. So it has returned back to me now a static example of a hero section. It is using BIM, which is good. I see that here. And so it's using a header though. And so I just want this to be a normal section. Okay. I just want this to be a normal section, not a header. And I want to wrap the image in, I think I'm hearing myself, by the way, in one of your, either Matteo or Jeremy, I'm not sure. I want to wrap the image in a figure tag. Okay, and let's see if it can correct this and spit it back. I'm going to show you once it spits back some clean, workable code that I like, that I find decent. I'll go ahead and paste that directly in just to demonstrate that because Etch speaks the language of web development, when an agent spits back code, it's literally usable, in that context. So, all right, let's go up here, and there you go. So I'm just gonna copy this, and we're gonna come down, and so sections are a little bit different because there's a root element situation right here where I need a root element in order to have another root element, right? But I'm pasting this in. Let's go ahead and see. It's got the figure. It's got the image. I'm going to go ahead and we'll put a mountain in there, and that gets us the image there. And it has a caption, and then we have a heading, and then we have our lead. And I want you to notice that these selectors from what I pasted are all attached to the actual elements. You should also notice that the structure is named. These are not the generic element names, okay? This says content, this says title. Etch is pulling the names of the things from the BIM class. So this BIM extension title, Etch knows is the name of that thing, okay? Because Etch is trained specifically to parse BIM in this fashion. So you get, when you copy code from an agent, if it is using BIM, which we recommend, not only do you get the attached selectors, I mean, you'll get those anyway, regardless of BIM, but not only does it attach the selectors so that you can just come in here and start styling things, but it also names the structure panel for you. And for example, I can grab the content right here and I can flex column that. I can come over and content gap it. I can come up to the hero itself. Now, one thing that I'm noticing the agent forgot, right, is a container, okay? So we would need to train it. This is kind of currently an untrained model. But we will be training it to where it knows these things. It knows, hey, if I give them a section, we need to have a container element inside of that. And so now what I can say is, and let's give this section a name as well. So we'll call this hero. This will have the class of hero. This will have the class of hero __ container. And now that that's there, I can go ahead and start doing my grid layout. I can come in here. I'm using the mini GUI now to just quickly style this up. And so now I have a basic hero, exactly what I asked for, where I have a heading, I have a lead, and I have a featured image. Now, obviously, the next step of this agent process is, instead of me asking it questions like, hey, how would I build a hero? I'm just gonna say, hey, build me a basic hero. And it needs this, this, and this, and it's gonna know to use BIM. And if you're an automatic CSS user, it's gonna know to use automatic CSS variables and workflow. And it's going to start just doing all this stuff for you, to the point where I would imagine, hey, I have a Figma file that they have, a designer has professionally done. Maybe Nick Arce or something has sent me over this fancy dancy Figma file. And maybe I just take a screenshot of that and I just feed it into Etch's agent and say, I just go ahead and build this right here. And it does it, and at some point it's going to be trained in loops, and it's going to be trained in logic, and it's going to be trained in components. And I would also imagine it can do other things for you, like create custom post types and create custom fields and manage data and all sorts of other things, obviously further down the line. But that is what we are building towards and working towards. Okay. What's going on in the chat before we continue?
Lots of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I can try
take?
to. Yep, a few. So one was, what model does the OpenAI API use? Currently, we are using GPT-5 Mini. A big reason behind that is we often hear, like, what's the best model? It's not a very good framework to think in. Basically. Different models have different capabilities and different costs. So we've selected GPT-5 Mini because it was good at retrieving information. And this is perfect for this use case. For different use cases, it will be different models. I don't know if we'll ever offer like the complete range of models, because it wouldn't necessarily be the best experience to have to select a different model every time. But there will be more models and more providers in the future. That seems like assured. We can't promise anything specific yet, but yeah. And I think another one was, when will it be able to just give a screenshot to AI and have it rebuild the entire thing? We don't know. Like the reality of it is we need to experiment and we need to take little steps. This is true for all of software development. It's even more true for AI because it's non-deterministic, which means basically with traditional programming, if you give it 1 + 1, the answer is always 2. With AI, it could be different every time for the same question. So essentially, we need to ensure that the results are good and are predictable enough before going just crazy with capabilities.
Yep.
And yeah, hopefully this helps a little.
Excellent, excellent. Lucky said new small freeze. I don't know if... are you noticing anything, Matteo?
Yeah, there was a small freeze.
Okay.
But you're back.
Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with my stuff today.
Yeah.
I have full bars on
There's a
my
comment-
Wi-Fi, by the way.
Yeah, that's odd. Maybe it's something on the route between your place and the broader internet.
Yeah.
But
Were you
anyway,
about to say something
hopefully,
else?
fingers crossed.
Were you about to say something else for AI stuff?
Yeah, there was a comment about 5.3 codecs beating Mini in general coding. which I haven't personally experienced. I've used more Opus than Codex, so I haven't specifically experienced the differences between like Codex versus Mini and on the OpenAI side. I don't know, Jeremy, if you have more experience on that side and what your thoughts are on bigger and more expensive.
I'm using both, and as I was saying, it depends on specifically what you're doing. Of course, we could have gone for just the top model of OpenAI, but for what we are doing currently, it would have been overkill, and also we just didn't know yet how much it would cost, and like that's always the question of will it blow up your bill, basically, because you're just always going for the bigger model. So it is better, absolutely, and it is likely something we'll want to use when we get to actually building stuff into Etch.
Yeah. You're making a good point about the cost, because something that people might not be thinking about is that you're not using your, say, OpenAI subscription. You're using your OpenAI API, and that's built separately and that's built differently. I think the bigger point that I still want to drive home is that this has always been the way we operate. We start small. Like you have a gigantic problem. Like, okay, we want to implement AI in Etch. You can't start with the entirety of the problem. You have to start very small. Okay, well, can we build a panel that gives you an answer using one model? And then you see what the problems are. Is the model too stupid to give you good answers? Can the model be steered to give you better answers? Should we find a different model? Can we give the model more context? Can we make the what used to be just a message and response, can we make it an actual chat where he keeps track of your entire conversation, etc., etc.? It's always incremental.
Yeah, I'm going to answer this question right here. So can we have an AI mode that just looks up that's what this mode does. Like the mode that you're looking at right here essentially does look up the docs, right? So if you're saying, hey, how do loops work in Etch? How do components work in Etch? What is I need to modify dynamic data to do X, Y, Z. It has access to the docs. And so it should, and you guys can test this, right? Go in and ask it questions related to the documentation and see if it spits back the accurate answer. And you can double check with the docs, but this is essentially a way for you to access the docs without having to open the docs. You could ask, what recipes are available? And by the way, Jeremy, what is I guess it just has always constant access to the docs. So as soon as the docs get updated, it's updated.
Yep. At least in its current form, as soon as the docs website is updated, it has access to the new version.
Okay. Let's just I'm going to do a little test. Is there a recipe for creating a footer reveal effect? We'll just see what it comes up with. My quick tests show each Q&A costs somewhere a little less than 1 cent each. Yeah, it's I've kind of been monitoring my usage. It's a very cost-effective model, that's for sure.
Yeah, this was the goal. What you need to keep in mind as well is when the conversation grows, each time you're sending the entire history of the conversation. So the first message is going to be much cheaper than if you're like 20 messages deep in a conversation. And this is where it gets very important to be mindful of the cost.
Yeah. And so I would imagine that sometimes it's a benefit to just start a new conversation and not be in a conversation that's 40 messages deep.
Absolutely, especially because each previous message in the conversation is going to influence the output you get back. So it's often a good idea, if you're switching topics entirely, for example, to just start a new conversation. Or in the same way, if you see that it's clearly, I'm going to say, not doing its task properly and giving you crap answers, essentially, it can be a good idea to just start a new conversation, grab the important parts from the previous one and paste them in there to to try to steer it towards the happy path again.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is an example one where we would go in and kind of try to find out, all right, why was it unable to find the footer reveal recipe in the docs? Maybe because it's just kind of a mention. It doesn't have its own entire doc associated with it. Not really sure, but we can go in and continue to tweak and refine. But that's the goal, is essentially we don't want to have to, this is a unified development environment. We don't want to have to switch contexts of let me pull up the docs. Like maybe I could just ask the agent my question and it goes to the docs and it answers the question for me and I move on with my life and I never really leave this current context. Okay, what we're gonna do, because we kind of demoed the feature, right? And more is obviously coming along these lines. You should, by the way, know that these badges exist. You're gonna see them in a few different places inside of Etch. It is a work in progress badge. It essentially lets you know we are currently working on this feature, expect changes and enhancements. This is a ongoing process of this particular feature. If you go to the content hub, if you go to the templates area, if you go to the style manager, if you go to the loop manager, these are kind of all work in progress areas of Etch. They are not in their final form, right? This is the benefit to you guys, as you don't have to wait while we work 6 more months or 12 more months on something. It's like you get access to every iteration of it, which is very nice and fun and useful. And it's the best model, but you do have to remember that that is the model, right? And these badges do help you know when you're working in a certain area. Oh, okay, I get it. Like this is a work in progress area. Okay, let's go on to custom media. So I'm gonna go ahead, I don't need the AI for this. I'm gonna go ahead and hide the AI and we are going to demo custom media. This is probably one of my favorite features. It's an extremely important feature. It's a feature that in this form, you are not going to see in any other environment that I know of. And it's something that you will probably be using, really should be using all the time. And so to demo this, what I'm going to do is I am going to add another section. So I'll just hit Command I, we'll add a section right here. And I'm also going to hit Command I, and we do have some very basic structures in here as well. It's not just single elements. So for example, a media card is something that you will need all the time for various reasons. You're building portfolio, you're building a blog, you're going to need a media card for something. There is a quick insertion of a media card. This is an unstyled card. It doesn't even have classes. It just has the general structure of the thing that you are trying to build. And so you see right here, I have media card and I can right click and immediately create BEM classes. If I wanted to create, I don't even have to name it media card, by the way. You know, if you wanted it to be blog card, you're using the media card structure, but you want it to be blog card, just write blog card or portfolio card or whatever it happens to be, right? I'll just say media card and I'm gonna right click and I'm going to create BEM classes and I can immediately start styling. Now, I am going to use a container query. My goal with this media card is that I want it to look great on mobile. It's gonna have a stacked layout on mobile, but if it gets placed in a grid or a section or a container where it ends up being very wide, and I don't even know what the word very means, if it just ends up being wide, too wide to where the stack layout just looks awkward, I wanna change the layout. And I wanna change the layout at a specific breakpoint. But changing the layout is not the only thing I have to do. I might have to do different kinds of padding, different types of content alignment. And you're gonna start to see a very, very common problem begin to occur. And I'm gonna show you how to use custom media to fix this problem. And then maybe a light bulb goes off in your mind, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a real image into our media card. I'm gonna go into our content wrapper. I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure that this is gapped out. I'm gonna use card gap. I'm gonna go to the media card in general, and I think I'm gonna go with like very small spacing on this. Inside of this content wrapper, we'll get some maybe medium padding going on here. I could also do card padding as an example, okay? If you have automatic CSS and you have the card framework enabled, the mini GUI is aware of automatic CSS's settings and it knows that you have the card framework turned on and it will start offering you card framework variables in these different contexts, okay? There is a seamless integration between automatic CSS and Etch. I'm gonna go to the main wrapper here. We'll go with a background color of, we'll do base, and I'll do maybe like base dark. I'll come in with color and just say maybe base ultra light, grab my heading and do essentially the same thing there, base ultra light. And then what I want, actually, I don't want the padding here. I want a concentric radius. And I want to use the reverse version of the concentric radius. So you can see that I have some recipes here, one for concentric radius and one for the reverse concentric radius. I'm going to apply the reverse concentric radius, and then I'm going to change the padding to 0.5 m, or I can do space XS here like I had before. And what the reverse concentric radius is going to do is it's going to calculate the inner radius according to the padding value. And then concentric radius, the normal one, calculates the outer radius according to the inner. Now in this particular install, I don't really have enough radius to do a reverse concentric radius, which you could just change. You can go to borders, border radius, maybe give it a bit more of an aggressive radius. And now you're gonna see that I can actually get more of a concentric radius going. All right, so I have essentially what amounts to a styled media card. And if we look at it on mobile, like that looks perfect. That looks fantastic. I love that. It's exactly what I was going for. But as this starts to get bigger, and we have a dynamic canvas, which does not have breakpoints, you can just see the entire range of responsiveness here, which is extremely valuable. At some point, I'm gonna realize that card layout, this stacked kind of layout, it's getting a little crazy. Like it's too wide. This is not a good way to present this information anymore. And so what I wanna do is I wanna change it here. And I don't want this change to be related to the device. I want the change to be related to the available space. And so if you want the change to be related to the available space rather than the device, you need to be using container queries instead of media queries. This is the modern approach to responsive development. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna activate, well, I say activate container queries, but I am going to make this so that when I use this card, it automatically marks its direct parent as a container, as a measurable container. And we do that by clicking this button right here. I'm gonna try to zoom in for you. So we have this icon, and this is called the Has Me selector. I have entire articles and videos on the Has Me selector, but the minute I click that button right here, it is going to add this little code snippet, which makes it auto-identify its parent as a measurable container. And then I can come click the container query button, and it is going to add a container query for me. And it is a very random value, 1031. Where are we getting that value from? We are getting that value from the measurement of the actual block that I'm working on, the component that I'm working on, okay? So it's measuring that currently at 1031. That is where I inserted the container query, therefore the container query is automatically going to reference 1031. So Etch's system of automatically inserting both media queries and container queries uses the dynamic measurement system of the actual elements to do this, which is very helpful. And it's here that I wanna say, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna display as a grid, and I'm gonna come in and say that this needs to be a 2-column grid. So container inline size greater than 1031, we're gonna display as a grid, and the minute we start to expand this out, you're gonna see that I have a 2-column layout for this card. But check this out, okay? I want this random number. We're gonna see a problem with this random number. I want this content here to come to the middle, right? Vertically center. It doesn't look good where this is stuffed up to the top. Well, guess what? That needs to happen on a completely different element, the content wrapper. There is no mention here of a container query, okay? In fact, I don't even remember now. I have terrible memory. I don't remember what that number was. So in the traditional workflow, you would need to go back here. You need to come down and find your container query and now paste it here as well. And instead of doing display grid stuff, we would do something else like flex column and then justify to the center. And now we have this instruction here. But I also wanna maybe provide more padding here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for maybe a more appropriate padding to happen at this quote unquote breakpoint. But I think you see a big problem here. I have referenced this static value of 1031 on this element. And when I go to the main card, I've also statically referenced that value on the main card. And then if I went to another element, like this actual image, what if I want to change the aspect ratio at this breakpoint of this image? I would need to once again paste a container query in where I'm manually or statically referencing its value, and then come in and say, okay, here we are going to do, we're gonna do object fit cover, and then I'm gonna choose a 1-to-1 ratio. So when it's wide, I want this image to be square. Let's not bother with how this actually looks. I'm just demonstrating that very commonly when you're building components like this, you end up with these container query or media query references all over the place. And now if I decide I'm looking at this canvas and I go, I think that's breaking too early or too late, I need to change the value. Guys, what do you have to do? You've got to hunt down every 1031 pixel reference and change it and hope you don't miss one. Not anymore, not anymore. Okay, now what you do is you go to the style manager and you go to this area called custom media definitions. And we are going to essentially create a media query or container query token. And the way that we do that is we say custom media, and then we are going to name it. By the way, it has one as an example in the comment right here. So if you just read the comment, it literally tells you exactly how to do this. Now, what's the beauty of these is, don't think of this in terms of like global breakpoints or anything. Think of this as like component specific almost, okay? So I might say media card wide. So I'm like giving it a name that actually makes sense. When the media card is wide, we're gonna do these things, okay? And so the inline size is greater or equal to 1031 pixels. And this now is a central like single source of truth for this actual query. And now let's look at how to use it. So instead of this entire little formula here that I've been using everywhere, I just say media card wide, okay? And now this container is much, much, much easier to manage. So I'm gonna go down here. I had it on this section as well. So I'll go ahead and replace that with media card wide. By the way, it's readable. Like, I don't know what inline size greater equal to 1031. And then over here, we got a inline size is less than 678. I don't know what the hell all these things are doing. But when I tokenize them, I can just read the names. And if I use good naming for things, it makes perfect sense. Oh, all this shit is happening when the card is wide. And then if I have one called narrow, I might see, oh, and this stuff over here is happening when the card is narrow. All right, and so I'm gonna go to the outer card and we're gonna replace this one as well. It's the same value that you get out of tokens in general for color tokens and spacing tokens and everything else. Now you can actually tokenize media and container queries. And so check this out. Like, I just built a container query responsive card, and this is as clean as it can possibly get. I have defined a wide version of this card, and now when I come back, by the way, we'll have some sort of auto suggest where it's like, hey, by the way, I noticed you're on this media card. Here's the available queries for this card. Would you like to insert one? Yeah, I want to do something at the wide version. I want to do something at the narrow version, whatever. This is an absolute game changer for just modern responsive development workflows. Again, it doesn't exist anywhere else on the internet because vanilla CSS is not capable of doing this. This is only done by Etch at the moment in this form and fashion with this level of flexibility. Okay, any questions on this, Matteo, as we went through this?
There's a couple of questions. There was one that was already answered by Jeremy, but I think maybe you might want to demo it.
Sure.
About the allow custom font uploads. Right? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that was from January, but we can do that here. So in the general tab, there is allow custom font uploads. Basically, you toggle this on. All this does is, like every other font plugin in existence, it basically makes you able to upload font files to the media library without WordPress screaming at you. And so once you upload your files to the media library, you then grab your URLs, and then you can use your custom fonts using the @font face declarations like you would in any other form and fashion with custom fonts. If you are an automatic CSS user, it's all done for you. Literally, you just pull up the dashboard, you go over to typography and fonts, you go to font 1, you give it a name, okay? So my font right here, you'd put your URL in, fill out these fields, it's WAF2, it's normal, put your weights in if you want, you could just leave it blank, and then font display, choose one of those. You can also, I would recommend starting to use variable fonts. So there is support for variable fonts automatically in ACSS. Just adds an extra field here. Again, put in the font file path, hit save. And then once you have defined something called my font, you simply go one tab over and you say my font, and you go another tab over and you say my font, or whatever, if you have more than one font, obviously, but this is how you assign that custom font to your headings and to your text, okay? And then of course, all of this is tokenized as well. Let me put this back so that we're not breaking anything in this install. All right, so I'll just clear these out, and that's that. So again, if you're an automatic CSS user, there's just not a lot of thinking involved here. You upload the files, you put the things in, you move on with your life. If you're not an ACSS user, you'll want to be able to, if you don't already know how to do the font face declarations, go ahead and look that up or ask AI, and it could probably help you out. But you'll have to do that more manually. All right, are we good to move on?
There's another question. Can we also get the categories with comments in this sheet like the other CSS panel? Now, obviously it was asked at the moment where you were demonstrating some of the CSS panels. I think they're referring to
This
the
area?
global style sheet, the style sheet manager
Yeah.
versus the normal input.
Yeah, it's already here. Now, I don't think you need it in custom media definitions. This is not going to be a very long sheet. On my size screen, if you got down here with custom media definitions, you maybe we get you an award or something. You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. But like with style sheets, I think let's see. Like, is it okay? They're talking about style sheets. The variables one has it. I wonder why the style sheets one doesn't. I guess that's just a question for Chris. He can probably fix that up fairly quickly. Because I'm seeing it here. It feels like it could just also be here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll just have to ask Chris.
Yeah. There's a question that was asked right now. Is there a plan to add conditions to style sheets so that certain CSS can only be loaded on certain pages or CPTs?
It's not really all that necessary. If you notice, I could actually pull up big projects that I've done. The Geary.co site, the new Geary.co site, the Etch site, and just the list goes on and on and on. The amount of styles that are in the style sheets area is essentially like none. The only thing that goes here is keyframes for animations, which have to be loaded globally anyway. You don't load those conditionally. And like some other global related stuff. You should not be putting any like element-based CSS should not live here. It should live in the selector system. So as you saw when I designed this card right here, this is where all the CSS lives. It lives on the selectors attached to the actual elements using the selector system, which already tree shakes. So if this card does not appear on this page, it is not going to load the CSS for this card. And that's one of the reasons the CSS for these items should be put here. And just makes like your global style sheets are going to be so minimal, so light. It's just really not gonna matter. 99% of your CSS is going to be element based in the selector system, and it's already tree shaking. Can we get a drop down for custom media so we can quickly insert it or auto suggest? Yeah, for sure. That's coming. Let's see. Is there a plan? Yeah, we got that. All right, I think we can move on at least for now, because we're gonna do a bunch of Q&A at the end also.
Yeah, there's a few more AI questions that I have saved for later.
Okay.
as well.
Okay, so custom media was a big one, obviously. We also now have an undo redo system. I'm just going to go ahead and click through this and notice what the undo is currently doing. It's undoing the stuff that I did even in custom media definitions. I'm just going to keep going backwards. Look at this. It's back into the custom media definitions area. And now we're back to where I don't even have, I don't have the section that I built earlier, the hero section. I don't have the card that I just built. It literally walks back step by step, snapshot by snapshot through a history state. And this is probably the most robust undo redo system that you have seen anywhere, simply because it has the ability to go into these panels and look, it's rewriting it now. Okay, so we're going forward again, and it's rewriting each step of the process that I went through. It will also go into loops, and it will be able to undo things that you've done to the loop structure or redo things that you've done to the loop structure. It is a very, very powerful undo redo system.
I know Andrea is in chat, and I wonder if he's still sweating bullets when you do that.
I haven't really had any problems with it. So he did a great job. Reinhard did a great job on it.
Yeah.
It's a very good
Props
system.
to Andrea and Reinhard for that. Yeah.
And just to explain to everybody, the reason why we paused to prioritize undo redo is because we didn't have it before and we didn't feel it was a priority before. But when we decided to start putting the AI inside of Etch, it was very obvious that, okay, if people can't undo things that the AI does, once the AI is able to actually build and insert things, that's going to be a potential problem. And so that kind of gave us the motivation to build the undo redo. And, did I expect it when we talked about undo redo? Did I expect it to be able to go back through the loop manager and the style manager? And no. This is just, the team thinking about, all right, like, how do we really make this just as we always do? Let's not build the little flimsy version of it. They built something very, very robust, which is nice.
Yeah. And to give a little peek behind the curtains, when we decided to work on the undo redo, we tasked 3 different developers to come up with 3 different approaches. And then each one of them demoed their own way to do it. And then we picked the best one and everybody got to contribute to that one.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're not just getting undo redo. You're getting the best of 3 versions of undo redo.
Yeah. And it worked out. It worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the tooltip recipe. Again, this is just one of those, hey, it's in the library in case you need it. I don't know about you guys. I've been in projects where I'm like, I need tooltips, and what a pain in the ass. Are we going to load a library for this? Where are we going to try to tackle it from scratch? Like, nobody wants to do this. And this is not the stuff you really get paid for. You pick up the phone and call Bev. Hey, I couldn't deliver the site. It took me 3 extra hours because you asked for tooltips yesterday. Like, this is just not the life anybody really wants to live. So the recipe library solves a lot of these headaches for you. I'm going to go into the style manager, and I am going to do this globally because I want these tooltips to be available everywhere. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to make a data attribute called data tooltip. And so anywhere I use data tooltip, I want the tooltip functionality. And so I'm going to hit the question mark. I'm going to write tooltip. I'm going to see that there's a recipe for it, and I'm going to expand the recipe. Now, I would put a little bit of a flag on this and say this uses the new anchor positioning syntax in CSS. It is still in the 80s, the 80th percentile for like browser support. So if you really, really, really need your tooltips to show up perfectly in every single browser imaginable, then you probably want to not use this recipe quite yet, okay? But very soon, this will be in the 90s and we'll be good to go. It is by far the best way to do tooltips. It's just brand new, okay? So I'll just put that little disclaimer out there. But essentially, I now have an entire tooltip system. That's all I had to do. I just put data tooltip. I expand the recipe, I have an entire system for adding tooltips. And so I can go in here and say data tooltip equals this is my tooltip, and I'll add that data attribute straight in there, and you see this is my tooltip. Now I don't like its position, so I'll say data tooltip position equals, and I'll say top left. I'll add that as an attribute now, and the tooltip is now at the top left. It is using my border radius from my project. If I don't like the styles of the tooltip, perfectly fine. I can go in here and I'm gonna see a bunch of locally scoped variables. I can change the offsets, I can change the background, the color, the padding, the font size, the radius, all right here. Maybe I want square tooltips. Great, let's go set that at 0. Let's go back, and now I have square tooltips. So with one little recipe, you have an entire tooltip system at your fingertips now. This is the kind of, recipes just solve kind of complex problems, like they're like a magic wand, so to speak. They're really, really, really valuable. Okay, let's go into the class prop for components. Okay, so I've got this card right here, this media card that I've created. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna create a component out of this. I know that I need a card heading, I need the description, I need the media. So I'm gonna go a text prop for the heading, a text prop for the description, a media prop for the media, and I think that's all I need for right now. We'll name this prop heading, we'll name this prop description. By the way, just watch us go through this. I don't think you're gonna see a more seamless or a faster way to create components anywhere in WordPress. Like the idea that I'm not going panel through panel through panel of inception and modals and accordions, and I'm literally just typing and targeting, okay? I'm just gonna click here. This is gonna be called my media, which I think I probably need to target that again. And then we'll go in and we're selecting a placeholder. This is all the placeholder, like the default content, right? And just like that, I have a media card component to where if I exit the component editor, and I'm gonna put this up on the top left so it's easier for people to see. I don't think, we're not covering the screen for anything. But I now can just come in here and say, my card heading. And this is my description, okay? And then of course, if I had more media, I could select different media. I don't have any more media on this install. Okay, that's great. We created a card component, fantastic. By the way, it still is automatically responding based on container queries, all of that. But what if I wanted now to say, the user should be able to change some of these styles? Like notice I don't have any styling controls because components are black boxes, right? If I wanted to globally edit the style, I could just edit the component and I could go in and edit the styles, and that's gonna apply to all of my cards. But that doesn't give me instance level control. And it also doesn't give the user a lot of control over the defaults. Like if I wanted to give them an unstyled version and then just allow them to style the defaults without editing the actual component, there's that question too. So what we can do now as the developer of the component, the author of the component, is we can determine all of the things that should be stylable, okay? So for example, I made a decision that this card was going to have a background color of base dark as an example, and a color of base ultra light. That was very opinionated on my part, right? If I was gonna really share this component with people, I'd probably want to give them a more unstyled version of this stuff. And so what I'm gonna do is remove those opinionated styles. We're not gonna do the whole thing. This is just for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to switch to class props, where I'm gonna say, okay, we want to give the person card classes that they can use, and I'm going to give them a default class for them to style, okay? Now I'm not gonna add the default class quite yet. I wanna just show you the first iteration of this. So I have card classes. I'm going to say the heading. I want them to be able to put classes on the heading. And then, sorry, not a text prop. I need the class prop. I'm gonna zoom in for you so you can see this too. This is the new prop you're looking for. It is called the class prop. It's got a little CSS icon next to it. So I'm gonna add another class prop. This will be the description classes. And I'm just gonna go ahead and hit save, and I'm gonna map these real quick. So obviously, I'm gonna turn on the preview. I need to link these somehow to the actual card. Like just creating them, it doesn't magically know what they're supposed to do or where they're supposed to go. So I'm gonna copy the key for the card classes, And right here, if I look, and this is why having access to the code is really valuable, I don't have to click around a bunch. I can come in here and I can just say that we're going to inject the props.card classes into this class string right here. And then what I need is I need to come back. I need to grab the heading classes. And again, I can see my heading right here. I can see an existing class. I'm just going to inject whatever goes into props.heading class. Let's just inject that along with the other classes that already exist. And now I do the description classes the exact same way. So I come down, put my braces, do props.description classes, and I'm going to hit save. And now I'm going to exit. And we're going to see that over here now, I have my normal props, and I now have card classes, heading class. Oh, I think I used a text prop for my heading classes, didn't I? Let's go back and yeah, I did. I absolutely did. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we'll say class, and we'll do heading classes. And I think the prop is the same, so I shouldn't have to do anything else. Okay, let's go ahead and exit there. And now I see this, okay? So I could, as a user, come in and say, my custom card, hit enter, and it's gonna apply that class to the component from the outside. I'm no longer having to edit the actual component. And I come in and I do something like background red, and suddenly all of the styling options that could potentially be available to me with CSS can be put on this card via this custom class right here. But as the author of a component, what I might, think to myself is, okay, I want to just give them some default classes to use that they can just start styling right when they use the component, okay? Because remember, anything I do here is going to apply to this instance, but it's not going to apply globally. But I can make it apply globally as the author of the component by giving default classes, okay? So we'll say user card class, we'll say user card class, and you could name these whatever you want. This is not like, there's no syntax that's mandatory here. User heading class, okay? And we're gonna say user description class, and I'll enter that and we'll save. And now let's watch what's gonna happen, okay? These classes are on here by default. And I can, as the user of this, I'm gonna remove that media card real quick. And we're gonna pretend, let's just all play pretend. Okay, I'm on a new page. I need a media card component. Okay, I'm gonna say media card. I'm gonna add the component, boom, so I've inserted it. And the minute I click on it, these classes are here for me to style. And I can come in and I can start doing my backgrounds color. We'll do like a base ultra light. And then I can do this heading right here. So the user heading class is going to allow me to do anything I wanna do here. Let's say I wanted to do, what would be fancy? Okay, card link color, I don't know. And then the user description class. Ooh, you know what I wanna do here? I wanna change and make this like really big text. So we'll come in and say text L for that description. And this is going to apply, okay, I'm gonna insert another media card component. It's gonna apply to all of them globally because these are default classes associated with this component. This is crazy. This is crazy that you can now style components with custom CSS from outside of the component. You don't even need to edit the component anymore. You don't need to know what's going on inside the component. And your entire mini GUI is available for you. Your recipe system is available for you. Everything is available for styling from the outside. And then if you wanted this card class to be some sort of unique snowflake, okay? Unique snowflake, a unique snowflake card, okay? I can put that and I can just undo the defaults completely and start over. And just start over with a brand new class and brand new styles using the existing component architecture. The usefulness of this cannot be understated. And again, I think this is probably something that, once again, you're just not gonna see anywhere else. Any questions about that?
There was one, there was an elaborate one that Jeremy and Andrea tackled.
Okay.
But there's another one. Can we have a button that auto does this, which I think is what you were just describing now, to all structure in a component optionally, like auto BEM?
Okay, read that one more time. You make my brain slow down.
Yeah. Can we have a button that auto does this to all structure in a component optionally.
Auto does
like
what
auto ban.
exactly?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's hard to explain because they're referring to something they were doing on screen, but it was like a minute or two ago. Maybe the author can clarify what this meant.
I'm pretty sure it was about creating class props and applying them to the elements.
Oh, yeah. I think...
Yeah, the autobam, I think, is steering us in that direction, yeah.
Well, if you think about... I think this was asked before in the very early days of props and components. It's if you think about it technically, how does it know where the things that I just created are supposed to go? You know? It can't just magically know that, okay, I created this prop and it's supposed to live here. You know, it can't possibly know that. So in some cases, it could maybe figure it out. Like, oh, he created a media prop. I see he's got some media. Maybe that should be linked. You know, but what is the extent of doing that? There's so many situations where it's just not clear where that's supposed to go.
Yep.
And so you have to have a human to actually, you know, determine where those live. Okay, so let's see here. No, don't do auto class props. Not everything should get class props. Yeah, that too. That's related to the class prop in general. Zach said, how do we feel about the fact that adding a class removes the default? Might be nice to keep it. Yeah, it's kind of like a default slot content in that fashion. I think we're gonna need, I've thought about it. There are situations where you definitely want the default to just go away. There's also situations where you definitely want the default to stay. And so it's one of those scenarios where there's no yes or no on every case. And so I think what we're going to need is some sort of setting on a, maybe inside the component editor, where when we create a default class, we say, hey, we want this to be sticky, essentially. Like, they can put more classes on top of it, but this one never goes away. This one always stays there. It's probably going to need to be some sort of setting. I'm seeing class props like overrides or a place to manage locally scope variables. That's one use. I wouldn't see it as anything other than what it is, which is a way to add a tremendous level of flexibility to components. There's going to be half of a dozen really, really good use cases for them. So I wouldn't try to put them in any sort of isolated bucket at this point in time. Yes, that is what the X is for, except default classes can't be X. So maybe that's all we have to do is allow the default to be removed, essentially. That would be another layer of functionality that we would have to build in. But yeah, that could be a solution for that. Okay, let's get into keys, values, modifiers. Again, we're just going to take a trip to the doc for this. So I'll open this in a new tab, and it's just something, again, you're not going to use this all the time, but you need to know it exists. The keys method returns the keys of an object as an array. So if you have keys and values and you want to only return the keys, that is what the keys modifier is for. And then of course you can do conditional logic checks like, hey, grab just the keys of this data and then see if there's a key called name. And if it includes a key called name, let's do something. If it doesn't, let's do something else. And you get inline conditional logic based on the existence or the non-existence of keys or the specific values of keys themselves. You can do the same thing with values where you're isolating the values in an array and then you're doing conditional logic based on those. Very, very useful stuff. It's new, so we want you to know it exists. Again, I would take 5 minutes, read through all of the ways that you can modify dynamic data in Etch, compare dynamic data in Etch, and inject dynamic data in Etch. Zach says, I use the keys to see the keys available on a single template. Okay, I don't know if that's a question or just a good use for them. Let's go into full Q&A mode now because we've done the entire list. We've done all of our demos. Any interesting questions? Let's go ahead and bring them up.
One that I kept aside was James was asking if it would be possible to use videos in media props.
Yeah, so that's coming. I think we're probably going to need a video. I mean, I'm surely right now, if it's just a source URL, you can use a text prop for it. But yeah, we're probably going to need, much like the media prop, either an expanded media prop or a dedicated video prop. But I think the reason we called it media prop is because our vision was this should be able to handle kind of dynamically images or videos. But that's coming.
Yep. Aside from these, I can't remember if it was answered, but there was a question very early on about the future shortcut components and essentially what we can do to ensure they play nice with Etch. I think this is probably a question for either of you.
Yeah, so I've heard of people doing shortcut stores already. So it's going to depend on your level of technical ability or your patience with using AI as an example. Same thing with WooCommerce. I've already done demos showing that, WooCommerce is not all that challenging to do. And so there are pathways to doing that. It's not the official pathway. What we're waiting on is our component API. And I think this is a good discussion kind of point to talk about why some things like the class prop, for example, showed up. Anybody that has gone to the current priorities list, you did not see class prop on here anywhere, but you did see component API. In our very initial discussion of building a components API, we asked ourselves the question of, okay, somebody registers a component, a third-party developer, Nick Arcee, Kraka, any of them, Zach, they register a third-party component. How are the users going to style that component? They can't edit it. They can't open it. They can't look at the code. They can't. What are they going to do with it? And so we were like, well, we can't have a component API until that's solved. And so the class prop was a way to solve that. The class prop said, hey, well, they could just put classes on any of the things that the developer allows them to put classes on, and then they have the full array of styling possibilities for that item. So the class prop came from discussions about how we're going to implement the component API. There was another set of discussions that came, well, hold on, you're starting to get a lot of props in this sidebar. And it would be nice if we could group those props together. And actually, I don't want to see all those props at the same time. Maybe I want to expand or collapse certain props or groups of props. Well, it turns out the grouping mechanism would automatically allow for expanding and contracting a set of props. Seems like a group prop would be very, very important. But wait, then there's this idea that when I maybe hit a Boolean switch, a bunch of props that are related to that switch should probably just disappear and not be there because they're not needed when the switch is off. So we need some sort of conditional logic for props. Well, it turns out the conditional logic is heavily based on the ability to group props to begin with. So it became very clear that, we really need a group prop. And also getting into the idea of repeaters, which you see right here, okay? And this was just added recently, expanded component functionality, groups and repeaters. If you can group things, it stands to reason you could also click a button and just duplicate the group. And then now you have some semblance of a repeater, which we also have an object prop for, okay? And that's gonna all have to tie in. These two things that just showed up seemingly out of the blue actually came from the internal discussions of how to get this thing done, the components API. And so this is how you see the real-time prioritization of things. This is not us just sitting around dreaming shit up. It's we're trying to solve problems, and in talking about how those problems are going to be solved, we realize that there are preliminary steps and other things that have to be done first. Thus, those things get added, which, by the way, both of these things, class props, groups, repeaters, conditional logic for props, these things have utility that exists outside of the components API, but it's also just necessary for the components API. So this is just a little insight into how these things come to be and how they go from, wait a minute, this wasn't even on the list. How did it suddenly become an immediate priority? Well, because this was an immediate priority and we can't have this without this. So there's your answer, right? Okay. Just a little context for that.
Yeah.
Yep,
We
yep.
can segue this into a question about the status of PHP authoring, since you have the screen
Yeah.
up.
You want to talk about that part?
Yeah,
That's more your
pretty
wheelhouse.
much what you're seeing. Like those are it's not in the immediate priorities, but it is one of the items that we want to tackle fairly soon.
Yeah.
As we've already repeated multiple times, there are considerations of security that need to be taken into account. It's sort of like a delicate thing to implement, and we really want to do it right the first time, so that we don't introduce vulnerabilities in any of the versions that then would have to get patched. What I can say is, you've seen with undo and redo that for a long time we said, oh, we don't need it, we can postpone it. And then all of a sudden we wanted to tackle something else, and we realized that undo and redo was a necessity for that something else. Maybe in tackling some of those immediate priorities, we'll realize that PHP authoring is needed and it will get prioritized sooner. But at the moment, this is what is on our radar.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the reason why it hasn't been bumped into immediate is because there's a pathway to doing it. It's not the pathway we want people to have, but you can author custom PHP in a code snippets plugin or even your own custom plugin, and even register shortcodes for that functionality inside of Etch, and then just use it that way. And so it's not like you can't use custom PHP in Etch. You have, like, Nick or Zach will be the first person to tell you, Zach has done a tremendous amount of stuff with custom PHP in Etch. But how is that happening? You can't author PHP. You don't have to author it in Etch, okay? There's still a pathway to getting the work done that you need to do. And as we've always said, if there's a pathway, then we're probably going to prioritize stuff that just has no pathway, because even a dirt road pathway is better than no pathway. So we've got to prioritize the things that have no pathway, and then we'll come back to the dirt roads and make them better. But that's why you're seeing PHP kind of linger right here and not ever make it into immediate, is because you can get it done. You can get it done. It might not be the best way, the way we ultimately want it to be done, but you can get it done. You're not blocked from getting it done. And we need to take care of the areas where there's blockers. You know, Nick, Kraka, Zach, all these third-party developers that are coming, they cannot register components in Etch right now. Okay, the way that we want them to be. There's no pathway for that. So that's got to be the priority, you know? If people can get their custom PHP into Etch various ways, we're going to allow that to continue to happen, and we can shift other stuff into the top slots.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, any questions that we've missed? We got about 8 minutes left on our stream today.
Quite a few questions about AI, so
Yeah,
I can
go
try
ahead.
to
Yeah.
to quick fire these. Essentially, will the AI be aware of the HTML elements? Yes, it will. The goal is to have an AI that is truly context aware, especially because some of the use cases that we are envisioning involved building, but also editing what is already on the page. So it will happen. It will need to be a capability it has. Amanda was asking, will the AI refer to WCAG for accessibility best practices? Ideally, the big issue with this is the literature for accessibility is a bit scattered and a bit difficult to interpret for AI systems. So no promises, but we'll see what we can do, I guess. And Zach was asking, can we get more info on this sentence from the docs, which is, we also plan to provide a more capable trained model natively via subscription. This is something where we'll need to discuss a lot more internally on what exact shape this takes, I believe. And I don't think we even have a clear picture right now. It's just that a lot of what will get you very qualitative AI outputs is to give it more context and to try and control what it has access to in terms of examples, training, etc. And this could mean some resources on the digital gravy side. And so this would probably be part of a subscription. But again, we don't really have a clear picture yet, I think, of what will be accessible to everyone, what will need to be a subscription, etc.
And I think there's some technical limitations kind of to getting a bring your own key model access to that same stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if it was on a bring your own key model, it will still incur some costs and depending on usage on our side. So it will need to be somehow controlled.
Yeah.
And I think the last one of those, at least that I had saved, is what does the AI roadmap look like to what you would consider the visional, the finished version of it, let's say. And again, I think we don't know yet. AI is a bit funny because it's magic, and at the same time it can be a bit stupid, depending on what you're trying to do. And a lot of it has to do with like exploring what we can do at a sufficient level that it is actually good and that it is actually reliable, because you don't want to, like, yeah, it's very good, but 2% of the time. So, just try 50 times and hopefully it will work out. Like, this is not a good vision for it. And this will need to be a lot of exploration, a lot of refinement. But what I can say already is that, like, a lot of what we are seeing out there for AI is just a blank text box, and just type anything in there, and then you just wait and you pray, and it could work out, it could not. To me, this is a very poor user experience, and I'm looking forward to make this a little better in Etch, ideally. And there are a number of ways that we could do this, but mainly it would be to help you get good results by shaping the inputs, so you don't have to do a bunch of crazy prompt engineering and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's also the question of, like, the question was asking, when will this be sort of like 100% finished? And there was another question about how long will it take to get to 100% finished? There is no 100% finished. Yeah. This is a product. Yeah. It's a product that is integrating with AI. It's something that is going at a crazy fast pace. When will this be complete? We don't know. Like, we don't know what AI will look like in 6 months. It's an impossible question to answer. All we can answer is, we are here. What's the meaningful next step? That's all we can answer right now.
Yeah. I don't know what this name is. Sorry. Between Content, I can't answer the question though. Between Content Hub and Custom PHP, which one has the highest priority? I think that's fairly easy. We've talked at length about how Content Hub is, it's an example of what a unified development environment should do. It should show you all of your content, allow you to manage your content. Obviously, there's so much like still to do here. Custom columns, right? For, let's say you have a custom post type with custom fields, being able to see and edit the data of the custom fields on every single post right from the table inline, or even in a modal situation or something, right? A much more robust situation is going to happen here. But we've said, since this was introduced, this is essentially a proof of concept and a proof of, hey, it would be really nice if this all was fully unified, right? But this is not required to develop websites, right? So our number one priority is always, what are the things that are required to actually build something? And the PHP authoring is obviously required to build things. In my mind, we would prioritize PHP authoring in Etch before we prioritize more features related to the Content Hub. To me, that's a fairly easy question to answer. We haven't talked about it internally, but I can tell you, in the weeks and weeks and weeks of team meetings, nobody has ever brought up like, hey, we should really make the Content Hub more robust. We are talking about when we can fit PHP authoring in. We are talking about a lot of other really cool things. So I think that gives you some insight into where the Content Hub sits. To me, it's another one of those icing on the cake kind of features where it's like, I need Etch to be able to do the stuff I need to do to build the things I'm building. If I can manage content in Etch also, man, that is just icing on the cake. If I have somebody asked the other day about this media experience, I wake up every single day. I use Etch for hours a day. Do I love the fact that this is the default media library? Would I love to see Jeremy's beautiful Figma file? We have Figma files for what our custom media library is going to look like and what it's going to be able to do. But I'm just never in a situation where I'm like, God, that really needs to happen. I'm fine with this it does what it needs to do, and I can get my work done. It's not pretty. It's not what I want it to be, but that's the discipline that we have to have, in the sense that so many teams, so many software products, they go get lost in rabbit holes of nice to haves and icing on and the core shit still doesn't work right and doesn't do what you need it to do. We can't get trapped in that. And so this is also a call to action to users. Like, you can also stop asking for that stuff all the time. Like, recognize when the thing that you are asking for is like an icing on the cake, and recognize that we are focused on core functionality of building the best possible experience for development. And if it's not related to development, like really, really building and shipping things, then you probably already know the answer to the question. You probably already know, yeah, it's kind of an icing on the cake. It's going to come later, but they're not going to prioritize it right now. They're disciplined, and I want them to be disciplined, so I'm not going to nag them to death about this like icing feature that I really want. Zach says, where does the Cursor Windsurf autocomplete AI fit in with Etch as an alternative to chat? I mean, I maybe Jeremy can speak to that a little bit. There's obviously going to be multiple layers to AI.
Yes, definitely multiple layers, and not just one single entry, let's say. Now, to answer this specific question, to be honest, I'm not sure yet. We would need to crack a few puzzles to actually implement it, especially if we want to have it in all HTML panels. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it would be desirable to have.
Yeah. I don't know if it's as valuable in HTML as it is in CSS, as an example. If I already have, if there's like an agent mode, not like an ask mode, and just let me bring this panel back up. So correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but I think there's going to be a modes button here where you can switch it and say like, hey, I just want to ask it things, or I want it to be in the mode where it can actually do things for me. And maybe there's even a plan mode, and so it would just write a plan for me, tell me what it needs to do, and then it will say, hey, by the way, do you want me to do that? And I can switch it to agent mode, and it does the things for me. So all of that has to come as well. But if it can literally build structure for me, I don't think it needs to I'm not going to be probably writing enough HTML for it to look at what I'm doing and be like, hey, do you want me to just finish that for you? I don't think that's as important, but in CSS, for sure. Like if I'm starting to style this card, it could be like, oh, I see where you're going with this. Like, do you want me to just auto-complete the rest of these instructions? Yeah, that'd be super helpful. So to me, the CSS editor would be the very first place something like that would show up. And then we would figure out where else it might be useful. A loop manager, like the loop editor right here. Okay, I'm starting to do stuff in the loop and it's like, hey, you know, you might want to add this and this and this as well. And I hit tab and it just auto completes it for me. That might be another place where it ends up being very valuable.
Yep, this could actually be the first one where we can fit it in. It would probably be the easiest one of the three.
Yeah, or even I think in Cursor there's a way to like, yeah, you can command, I can't remember what it is. You can command something and it brings up a little input right here. And you could just say, I need to loop my services. And then hit enter and it's like, bang, it just generates like a services loop right there inside of the existing new loop that you were starting. So if I added a loop and went here and I just deleted this stuff and then I just asked the AI right here, hey, I need to loop my services and it just does it for you, that would be like tremendously helpful. Because you can also tell it, you know, I want to limit the count. I want to order it by, you know, post title, and I want to do ascending. And maybe I don't know how to do any of that by hand, but the autocomplete can essentially do it for me.
Yep.
Yes, core needs to be focused. Peripheral can be improved over time. Yep. Are we going to see integration with Git for version control? Yeah, but again, this is, I've kind of used the example before. It's like, if you took that to the extreme, like go back, because literally, and the reason I'm going to do this is people were asking about Git when we were like 2 months in, 3 months in. And I was like, yeah, that would be cool, guys. Like, we can't build anything, but the good news is you can Git control it. You can Git control your blank canvas. Isn't that fun? Like, this is that we take it to that extreme just to demonstrate that like the timing of these requests is important. You know, it has to be able to do all the things an enterprise developer who cares about Git control would need to do before they cared that they could Git control it. You know, so yeah, it's just there's a lot of things on the list, you know, and a lot of things have to happen before we ever get there.
Yeah, exactly. It's on our roadmap, but it's not an immediate concern.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to put this one in the books. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. And like I said, we do these every single month. So plan the final Friday of every single month is dedicated to doing this. If you're not using Etch, maybe you have a license and you've just been sitting on your hands saying, I'm just going to follow the progress. I would really encourage you to just open it up. Just build something simple. Just pop in a little hero section. Maybe try to build a little card like you watched me build down here. Play around with the container queries. Do a little custom media, you know. Just see what your experience is like. Because I think what you're going to find, and this is people keep telling us all the time, is like once they've done that, you know, they just dedicated one little weekend, a little Saturday, a little Sunday, and by Monday, they were ditching their entire stack. And they're like, I can't work on anything else. This is a done deal. It's Etch all the way. You're going to find that. And you deserve to have that experience. Like stuck in your old workflows simply because you haven't opened this and played around with it. You don't want to be living that life. You want to be living the Era 4 life. So if you don't have a license, I would encourage you to get a license and do the same thing. And I got to talk to Matteo and the rest of the team, but I don't know how much longer the LTDs are going to be around. A lot of things are going to be shifting and changing, so you may want to secure your spot. So far, it has been a breeze, a little Etch sprint. Yeah. Striped Goat, you too. Have a great weekend. And that goes for everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll be back soon.
Yep.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.